Good day everyone, my name is Lovely Jane Robles and today I am going to tackle to you the instructional learning process. Types of instructional process, which is lesson planning. There are also subtopics that we are going to discuss under lesson planning, which are pre-planning, lesson planning, implementation, and the evaluation. But before we get started, let's have the objective first. At the end of the lesson, the student will be able to identify the meaning of learning instructional process, explain the importance of instructional process and lesson planning, and give their understanding about lesson planning. So first, let's going to define the learning instructional process. Instruction and learning processes are defined as the interaction between the learners and the teachers. Instruction is planned according to the curricula based on needs identified through assessment and made possible through training of teachers. Learner-centered, participatory, and exclusive instruction and learning processes involves the larger community in providing and supporting education. The teaching learning activity can be considered as a process, which starts with the definition of what the learners should know and finishes with the evaluation of what the learners actually know. So, the instructional processes or the learning instructional processes is the interaction between the learners and the teacher, as I've said earlier. It is the instruction that, according to the curricula, based on the needs of the learners that identified through assessment. Basically, the teacher has to decide what to teach and how to teach. The teacher has to choose contents or skills and methods of her or his teaching activity. So before we go further or before we proceed, I have a questions for you. What is the importance of instructional process? Okay. So let's proceed to the next question. Why teachers should use the instructional process? So for this question, I will answer it for you so that you have your own idea or you have idea on why the teacher should use the instructional process. So because it allows students to focus on the new information and activities rather than on trying to figure out what comes next and what they are supposed to do. Use the following strategies to develop a routine that works for you and use it when introducing every lesson. So now let's proceed to lesson planning. Pre-planning. Pre-planning is the stage of the lesson planning that focuses on making decisions about what direction the lesson will go in based on student needs, requirements, curriculum, and any other influences that may be at work in your classroom. So basically, the pre-planning is planned in advance before the actual lessons. So why is it important to prepare a lesson plan before teaching? Planning lesson ahead of time means teacher enter the classroom each day fully prepared to teach new concepts and lead meaningful discussion instead of figuring things out as they go. Without a lesson plan, students can quickly lose focus and teacher may be left scrambling, thinking of what to do next. So now let's proceed to lesson planning. What is lesson planning? Lesson planning is the activity which the teacher performs before the actual lesson takes place. A lesson plan is a detailed description of the instructional strategies and learning activities to be performed during the teaching learning process. So what is the importance of lesson planning? Lesson planning is important because it helps teachers to make sure that everyday activities that go in their classroom are providing learners with a good level of lasting progress toward what they want to achieve outlined in their sequence, as well as in their individual education plan. Implementation. Implementation is the process that turns strategies and plan into action in order to accomplish strategic objectives and goals. Implementing your strategic plan is as important or even more important than your strategy. So, an implementation or an implementation plan, also known as strategic plan, outlines the steps your team should take when accomplishing a shared goal or objective. This plan combines strategy, process, and action and will include all parts of the project from scope to budget and beyond. So what is implementation in a lesson plan? It occurs when learning communities that meet to learn or define instructional strategies, plan lessons that integrate the new strategies, share experiencing about implementing those lessons, analyze students, work together to reflect on the result of use of the strategies, and assist their progress towards their goal. Last but not the least, the evaluation. Evaluation must be collaborative activity between teachers and students. Students must be able to assume an activity role in evaluation so they can begin to develop individual responsibility for development and self-monitoring. Evaluation needs to be authentic. It must be based on the natural activities and processes students to do both in the classroom and their everyday life. For example, relying solely on formalized testing procedure might send a signal to children that learning is as simple as search for the right answers. Evaluation is intrinsically more complex than writing a test, giving it to a group of students, scoring it, and handling it back with a sum of sort of letter grade. Indeed, it involves a combination of procedures and designs that not only gauge students' work but also help them grow in the process. So why evaluation is important in learning? Evaluation is an important component of the teaching learning process. It helps teachers and learners to improve teaching and learning. Evaluation is a continuous process, not a periodic exercise. It helps in forming the values of judgment, educational status, or achievement of the student. It is also important to realize that the best planned lesson is worthless if interesting delivery procedures, along with a good classroom management techniques, are not in evidence. There is a large body of research available pertaining to lesson development and delivery and the significance of classroom management. They are skills that must be researched, structured to your individual style, implemented in a teacher learning situations, and constantly evaluated and revamped when necessary. Consistency is of the utmost importance in the implementation of a classroom management plan. So that's all for my report. Thank you and God bless.